Let me start with a simple but unsettling truth. Every morning, millions of people wake up and do something that silently raises their risk of stroke without even realizing it. As a doctor who studies the brain, I've seen what happens when a stroke strikes. Lives change in an instant. Independence is lost, families are shaken, and the tragedy is, in many cases, it could have been prevented by avoiding one common mistake in the first hours of the day. Now let me ask you this. What is the very first thing you do when you open your eyes? For some, it's rolling quickly out of bed. For others, it's heading straight to the bathroom. Some people pour themselves a hot cup of coffee before they've even had a sip of water. These seem like harmless habits, right? But for the brain, they can be anything but harmless. Here's why. Your body goes through a natural overnight fast. While you sleep, you're not drinking, not moving, and your blood thickens slightly because of mild dehydration. This is completely normal. But when you suddenly jolt upright in the morning, or when you flood your system with caffeine before restoring fluids, your blood pressure can spike. Combine thicker morning blood with that sudden surge, and you've created the perfect storm inside your arteries. It's like shaking a soda can and then popping it open. That's when clots form. That's when fragile blood vessels in the brain are at risk of rupture. And that's when stroke risk can triple, especially after 60 when the vessels are more vulnerable. Now picture this. Imagine standing up too quickly, feeling a sudden wave of dizziness, brushing it off as nothing. Hours later, you were sitting at breakfast and you notice your hand doesn't quite grip the spoon the way it should. Maybe your words feel harder to form. These are the early whispers of a brain in crisis, and too often they are ignored until it's too late. But here's the empowering part. Just as the wrong morning habit can raise your risk, the right habits can lower it dramatically. Start with water. Within minutes of waking, sip a glass of water before anything else. This restores hydration, makes your blood less sticky, and stabilizes pressure. Second, give your body a few gentle movements before standing up. Stretch in bed, sit at the edge for a moment, let your circulation catch up. Third, delay that first cup of coffee until after you've had water, and ideally something light to eat. Coffee on an empty, dehydrated system magnifies pressure swings. These small shifts may sound trivial, but for your brain, they are life-saving. The brain is like the conductor of your entire orchestra of life. It coordinates your movements, your thoughts, your memories, your emotions. A stroke is not just a medical emergency, it is a theft of the very essence of who you are. That's why preventing one is so critical, and prevention does not always require big changes. It's about knowing the hidden traps, like this morning mistake, and steering clear of them. So tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, pause for a moment. Reach for water before coffee. Move with intention instead of rushing. Give your brain the stability it craves. Because every small choice you make in those first few minutes can either protect or endanger your most vital organ. And I promise you, your brain is worth protecting. Your health begins the moment you wake up. Don't let a simple morning mistake steal your tomorrow. Now let me share something most people never realize. The hours between 6 a.m. and noon are the most dangerous for strokes. Research shows that nearly half of all strokes happen during this window. Why? Because of what your body does in the morning, and the mistakes we unknowingly pile on top of it. Think about it. When you're asleep, your heart rate slows down, your breathing is softer, and your blood pressure is lower. But the moment you wake up, your brain signals your body to prepare for activity. Cortisol, the stress hormone, rises sharply. Your heart pumps harder. Your blood pressure rises naturally. It's like your body stepping on the gas pedal after idling all night. Normally that's fine, but add dehydration, thick blood, and a sudden jolt upright, and you've created an unstable situation for your brain as delicate blood vessels. Here's the mistake almost no one talks about: jumping out of bed too quickly. It sounds so innocent, but imagine your brain as a sponge filled with fragile channels. The instant surge of pressure is like squeezing that sponge suddenly. Tiny vessels strain, some even tear. Dizziness, blurred vision, a pounding head. These can be early signs that your brain is not happy. Ignore them, and you increase the risk of a catastrophic event. But here's the kicker. Many people think the answer is just rest more or drink coffee fast to wake up. That's exactly the trap. Coffee, especially first thing, raises cortisol even higher. It makes your blood vessels constrict, your blood pressure spike even further, and it strips away the safety margin your brain needs. In other words, the very thing you believe is helping you wake up is pushing your brain closer to danger. Now let me ask you, how many times have you reached for that first cup before even brushing your teeth? It feels harmless, even comforting. But picture this. Your brainless blood vessels at that moment are like dry riverbeds after a long drought. Instead of filling them with gentle, cooling water, you pour in caffeine, which whips the current into a flood. That flood may not break the banks today or tomorrow, but over time, it erodes the walls and increases the risk of collapse. This is why neurologists and stroke specialists are starting to emphasize the importance of morning routines. The difference between sipping water first and grabbing coffee first may sound small, but to your arteries, it's the difference between peace and chaos. And here's where it gets even more surprising. It's not just coffee. For some, the morning mistake is salt. A salty breakfast, like processed bread, cured meats, or even certain spreads, piles extra strain on the blood vessels. Remember, your body has just gone hours without fluids. When salt enters that system, it holds onto water and makes your blood volume spike, again raising pressure. So let's put this together. Dehydration, sudden standing, first coffee before water, salty foods before fluids. These 4 small choices combine into one big mistake, an invisible storm inside your brain that can triple stroke risk, especially with age. But don't panic, because knowledge is power, and the power is yours. By changing just 1 or 2 of these habits tomorrow morning, you shift the odds dramatically in your favor. Your brain doesn't need perfection, it needs consistency. Now, let me give you a picture of what brain-safe mornings look like. You wake up and stay seated for 30 seconds. You drink a glass of water, just one, before you do anything else. You move your body gently, maybe stretch your arms, roll your shoulders, or walk slowly to the kitchen. Only after this do you have coffee, ideally paired with some food that balances its effects, like fruit, oats, or yogurt. What you've just done is taken your brain out of the danger zone and given it the stability it needs to carry you through the day. And here's the best part. These changes don't just reduce stroke risk, they also boost memory, focus, and energy. The same vessels that supply oxygen to prevent strokes are the ones that fuel your thoughts, your creativity, your ability to recall names, and your resilience in handling stress. Protecting them is not just about avoiding tragedy, it's about living sharper, stronger, and more fully today. Now let me take you inside the body at sunrise. While you're still lying in bed, your blood pressure begins to climb. This is not an accident. It's your body's built-in alarm clock. It's called the morning surge, and for some people it's mild, but for others, especially after 60, it can be dramatic. Studies have shown that this spike can be as much as 30 or 40 points higher than your nighttime pressure. And what do we know about sudden pressure changes? They stretch your blood vessels like balloons. A healthy balloon expands easily, but one that's been weakened by years of stress, poor diet, or simply age may develop tiny cracks. Push too hard, and it bursts. That's exactly what happens when a stroke begins. Here's another hidden mistake. Skipping breakfast entirely. You might think, skipping a meal means fewer calories. Maybe it's healthier. But for your brain, it can be dangerous. Why? Because after a night of fasting, your blood sugar is already low. Without food, your body releases stress hormones to keep you alert. Cortisol rises even higher, adrenaline surges, blood pressure spikes again, and now you've got the triple threat: thick blood from dehydration, rising cortisol, and no steady fuel for your neurons. Your brain, the hungriest organ in your body, starts running on fumes. That's when small clots are more likely to block critical vessels. Now let me share a story from the clinic. A patient in his early 70s once told me, "Doctor, I felt fine that morning. I skipped breakfast, had 2 cups of black coffee, and rushed to my garden. Within minutes, I couldn't hold the rake properly. My hand just slipped off. I thought it was nothing, but hours later, I couldn't lift my arm." He was describing the first signs of a stroke. What he thought was a harmless routine, coffee on an empty stomach, no hydration, no food, was actually a perfect storm for his brain. So here is the question you should be asking right now. What is the single best way to protect your brain in those fragile morning hours? The answer is simpler than you think. Hydration, gradual movement, and balanced nutrition. 3 things anyone can do no matter their age or lifestyle, yet they're ignored every single day. But let's not stop there, because the mistakes don't end in the kitchen. They continue with how we start our activity. For example, rushing into heavy exercise without warming up. Don't get me wrong, movement is essential for brain and heart health, but doing it wrong, right after waking, can backfire. Picture this. Your blood vessels are still stiff from the night. You suddenly strain them with push-ups or a fast walk up the stairs. The vessels are forced to expand quickly, and for some, they simply can't. The risk of rupture spikes again. That's why neurologists recommend gentle warm-ups, stretching, slow walking, even just breathing deeply, before diving into more demanding activity. It's like starting a car on a cold morning. You don't slam the gas, you let the engine warm up first. And here is something most people don't know. Even your bathroom routine can influence stroke risk. Straining during a bowel movement first thing in the morning is one of the most overlooked triggers. The pressure inside the chest rises, blood pressure spikes, and the brain's vessels bear the burden. For someone with fragile arteries, that's all it takes. So even something as private and routine as how you use the bathroom becomes part of your stroke prevention strategy. Staying hydrated, eating fiber, and giving your body time to adjust in the morning can quietly save your brain. Think of your morning like crossing a bridge. At night, your body is in one world: rest, repair, and stillness. In the morning, it crosses to the world of activity, stress, and energy. That bridge is narrow, fragile, and easy to shake. If you run across recklessly, you risk falling. But if you walk carefully, water in hand, food for fuel, gentle steps, you make it across safely, ready for the day ahead. So let us break this down into the 3 worst morning mistakes for your brain, the ones that silently triple your stroke risk. Mistake number 1, we've already touched on: jumping out of bed too quickly. It feels harmless, even efficient. You wake up, your alarm rings, and you spring to your feet. But inside your body, it's like going from 0 to 60 without warning. Your blood pressure spikes. Your brain's fragile arteries are suddenly forced to adapt. And for some, they simply can't. That momentary dizziness you sometimes feel, that's not just grogginess. It's your brain begging you to slow down. The fix? Stay seated at the edge of your bed for 30 seconds. Let your circulation stabilize. Think of it as giving your brain a gentle handshake before asking it to work. Now, mistake number 2, and this one shocks people because almost everyone does it before they even leave the bedroom. Reaching for your phone. It seems innocent, right? You scroll through messages, check the news, maybe even social media. But here's the danger. Your brain, still transitioning out of sleep mode, is suddenly flooded with information and stress. Heart rate climbs, cortisol jumps, blood pressure rises again. And when your body is already in its natural morning surge, this added layer of stress can push your arteries past their limit. To the brain, it's like going from a quiet room into a rock concert with no warning. The overstimulation strains your system, and in vulnerable vessels, it can trigger clotting or rupture. And now mistake number 3, the one most tied to stroke risk: skipping hydration and going straight to coffee. We touched on this earlier, but it deserves repeating because of how common it is. After 8 hours without water, your blood is thicker, stickier, your vessels are less flexible. Then you pour in caffeine, which tightens your blood vessels even more, and you do it without giving your body the fluid it's craving. For the brain, this is like running a car engine with no oil. Friction builds, pressure rises, and the chance of breakdown skyrockets. But here's the twist: these mistakes don't work alone, they stack. Picture a person waking up, grabbing their phone in bed, jumping straight up, then heading for coffee on an empty stomach. That sequence, repeated day after day, is like pulling a slot machine with the odds tilted against you. You may not notice today or tomorrow, but the brain never forgets the strain. Over time, the risk grows. So what can you do instead? The opposite of those mistakes. Hydrate before coffee. Sit before standing. Move gently before rushing. Delay screens until your brain is fully awake. These small acts don't just reduce stroke risk, they create calm. They give your brain the conditions it thrives on: steady blood flow, balanced pressure, smooth energy. And here's something inspiring. When researchers studied people who adopted these habits, simple, no-cost adjustments, they found dramatic differences. Lower morning blood pressure, more stable heart rhythms, fewer episodes of dizziness or morning fog, and yes, lower stroke risk. Now, let's add one more layer. Because stroke is not just about arteries, it's also about inflammation. And inflammation rises when you're stressed, sleep-deprived, or nutrient-depleted. That means your evening habits matter just as much as your morning. Go to bed hydrated, and your morning surge is gentler. Get deep sleep, and your vessels are more flexible. Eat foods rich in omega-3s, leafy greens, and antioxidants, and your arteries repair themselves overnight. Morning safety starts the night before. So the question isn't just, what mistake do you make in the morning? It's also, what choices are you making before you even close your eyes? So let's imagine a different kind of morning. Instead of rushing, instead of making those silent mistakes, what if the first 30 minutes of your day became your strongest shield against stroke? Step 1 begins before your feet ever touch the floor. You wake up and simply pause. Don't reach for your phone. Don't jump out of bed. Just sit there, take a slow breath, let your body catch up with your mind. In those few seconds, your blood pressure has a chance to steady itself. It may not feel like much, but those 30 seconds are the difference between strain and stability for your brain. Step 2. Water. Before coffee, before tea, before breakfast, just 1 glass of water. As it slides down, picture your blood becoming less sticky, your vessels more flexible, your brain's neurons sighing in relief. This is hydration doing its quiet, life-saving work. Without it, the morning surge can tip into danger. With it, you've given your brain its first gift of the day. Step 3 is movement, but not the way you think. No rushing up the stairs, no sudden bending to pick up laundry, no push-ups the moment you wake. Instead, gentle stretches, rolling your shoulders, maybe walking slowly to the kitchen. Think of it as warming up your blood vessels, giving them a chance to adapt, because your arteries, just like muscles, need time to loosen before you ask them to perform. Step 4, a light breakfast. Not skipped, not loaded with salt, but something that fuels your brain. A slice of whole grain toast with avocado, a bowl of oatmeal with berries, a boiled egg with spinach, foods that keep blood sugar steady, calm inflammation, and give your neurons the fuel they demand. Skipping this step isn't discipline, it's deprivation, and your brain pays the price. And finally, step 5, delay your coffee. Don't worry, you don't have to give it up, but shift it by 30 minutes, after water, after food, after your body is awake. Suddenly, that same cup becomes less of a threat and more of an ally. It sharpens your focus without shocking your vessels. The difference is timing. The same drink that raises stroke risk at 6:30 a.m. can protect memory and attention at 7. Now imagine this whole sequence in motion. You wake, sit, drink, move gently, eat, and then enjoy your coffee. 5 simple acts, none of them expensive, none of them complicated, yet together they transform your risk. Instead of tripling your stroke chances, you've cut them dramatically. Instead of straining your brain, you've nourished it. Instead of fear, you've built confidence. But let me add one more piece, a piece that often goes unnoticed: gratitude. A moment to pause, breathe, and thank your body for carrying you into another day. It sounds simple, but stress is one of the great amplifiers of stroke risk. By beginning the day with calm instead of chaos, you set the tone for the hours ahead. Because here is the truth: your brain doesn't just need protection from pressure and clots. It needs protection from the storm of modern life, stress, rushing, distraction. And the morning is when that storm often begins. But now, you hold the umbrella. So tomorrow when your alarm rings, you'll have a choice. Will you repeat the mistakes that silently raise your risk? Or will you create a routine that shields your brain, strengthens your future, and gives you the best chance of waking up not just alive, but alive and thriving? The choice, as always, is in your hands. Let's go deeper into this idea, because when I say your morning choices could triple your risk, it's not to scare you, it's to give you power. The brain is like an orchestra, and blood flow is the conductor. If the conductor is sluggish, distracted, or impaired, the entire orchestra falls apart. Likewise, when blood flow to your brain is disrupted, even for just a few minutes, the cells starve of oxygen and nutrients. That's what a stroke is. Brain cells beginning to die because circulation is blocked or bleeding occurs. The damage can be sudden and devastating, but here's the truth. It doesn't happen in isolation. It builds quietly over time, shaped by daily habits, often starting first thing in the morning. One of the worst offenders is skipping hydration when you wake up. You've just gone 6 to 8 hours without a sip of water, yet many people roll out of bed, reach for coffee, and push hydration to the background. The problem is that dehydration thickens your blood, making it more prone to clot. Thicker blood moves sluggishly like syrup through a straw instead of water through a hose. This raises the chance of clots forming in arteries that supply your brain. That's why the first glass of water in the morning can act like a lifeline, restoring fluid balance, thinning the blood, and lowering stroke risk. But hydration is only one piece. The other mistake is hitting the ground running without allowing your body a chance to transition from sleep to wakefulness. When you jump up quickly, blood pressure can spike, and this sudden surge puts stress on fragile blood vessels in the brain. Some strokes happen not because of long-term damage, but because a small vessel ruptures under pressure. Taking a few deep breaths, stretching, or even sitting for a minute before standing can ease this transition and protect your brain. Think of it like warming up an engine before hitting the highway. You are preventing damage that could otherwise shorten its lifespan. Now let's talk about food. Many people grab something quick, like a pastry, sugary cereal, or processed breakfast bar, because mornings feel rushed. The issue here is that these refined carbs cause a rapid spike in blood sugar, followed by a crash. This roller coaster destabilizes your blood vessels, increases inflammation, and puts more strain on your brain's delicate circulation. A far better choice is protein combined with healthy fats, like eggs, yogurt, nuts, or seeds. These steady your blood sugar, fuel your brain, and keep your vessels calm and resilient. It's not about dieting. It's about creating a vascular environment that resists the conditions that lead to stroke. And then there's the silent problem of morning stress. You might not even notice it, but the body's natural stress hormone, cortisol, peaks in the morning. If you add rushing, traffic, arguments, or worry, the spike is even higher. This surge constricts your blood vessels and raises blood pressure, creating a perfect storm for stroke. Stress won't always announce itself with panic attacks or racing thoughts. Sometimes it's simply the constant feeling of being late or overwhelmed before the day even begins. That's why practicing calm rituals, deep breathing, mindfulness, or even listening to soothing music can literally save your brain. The last piece is movement, or the lack of it. Your blood vessels respond to activity like a muscle does to exercise. In the morning, blood can pool, especially in the legs, if you stay too sedentary. Without circulation being stimulated, clots are more likely to form. Even 5 minutes of gentle walking, stretching, or stair climbing in the morning can get blood moving in ways that protect your brain. It doesn't have to be a gym session. It can be as simple as walking to the kitchen with intention, stretching your arms, or doing ankle circles before you put on your shoes. What's incredible is how small these changes can be. 1 glass of water, 1 mindful minute before standing, 1 balanced breakfast, 1 calm thought, 1 stretch. But together, they act like armor for your brain. Stroke is not random. It's influenced by daily rhythms, and mornings set the tone. When you understand this, you start to realize that the first hour of your day is either a protective shield or a silent threat. Now the question becomes, what's your morning routine really doing for your brain? Are you unknowingly setting yourself up for risk? Or are you building resilience without even realizing it?